We will start in the NBA playoffs, which tip off this weekend, but I want to give you guys a quick heads up. The fan merch locker is now open at 1080thefan.com. We have classic tees that are very high quality that you can go find at 1080, and launching with 2 primetime t-shirts voted for, plus a classic fan logo shirt that we have available up there. Price is pretty reasonable. Go to 1080thefan.com. Again, the fan merch locker has 2 primetime t-shirts that you can go buy. We have a lot to get to. Got to get the Drops t-shirts from Primetime.
The chicks dig it.
They do. We talked with Ben Golliver yesterday, so Dirt and I are starting to do some more YouTube stuff outside of the show. There is a certain window for West Coast guests that make it very difficult.
Yes, Ben Golliver is at, for a guy like him, he's at a lot of NBA games. Yes. He's home at midnight, and he's not waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning to come on our show.
Absolutely. And we love to talk to Ben Golliver.
Yes.
We haven't talked to him in quite some time. So yesterday we both got home, and we said, let's put something just up on YouTube to help grow the page, or, just have some fun with people. And so we talked with Ben Golliver yesterday. You can find that again at 1080's YouTube page.
Really good stuff on the Blazers, Jody Allen.
Yes.
Draft this offseason, Cooper Flagg, everything. Really good stuff.
Really good stuff. He's got a piece coming out about Cooper Flagg. Talked to him at the Hoop Summit. Knows all about him. Gave us some good stuff. As you mentioned, the Blazers. I don't know if we'll get to that, if we just hold that for a later date. But we talked NBA playoffs as well. And Ben Golliver, in asking about the playoffs, brought up Milwaukee and had this to say about our beloved Damian Lillard.
Lillard's been the single biggest disappointment in the entire NBA this season. Full stop, period. No question about it. He has not fit with Giannis. They do not make each other better. It's sort of like a corporate merger where you have 2 companies trying to come together, and the new version just you don't know what your company stands for or what the name is. Everybody's arguing, right? Like kind of a Dunder Mifflin type situation. Like, it just sounds weird. That's been the Milwaukee Bucks. And then on defense, he's not guarding anybody. Malik Beasley's not guarding anybody. And it's just a layup line through their defense. And it's really sad to see, because what I always loved about the Bucks, man, they used to get down in their defensive stance. All 5 guys would be so hard to score. And even last year with Drew Holiday and those guys, they would really be able to crank it up. Even during the regular season, the consistency just hasn't been there.
Yeah, look, I think you got to parse it out a little bit here. You could point to other players that didn't have great seasons. But if you add what expectations or what people thought players would be to it, It's interesting for somebody like Ben Golliver, who has watched him his whole career, to say out loud he's been the most disappointing player in the league, full stop.
It is a little jaw-dropping, and I think a lot of it has to do with what you pinpointed, and that is the expectations coming in. Like when Dame was traded to Milwaukee and he was teamed up with Giannis, it was a depressing day here in Portland. But the reality and the reaction from a lot of folks was, this is a good team that's likely going to win an NBA championship. Giannis is one of the best players in the league, one of the most dominant players we've ever seen. You've given him now an offensive running mate that you would argue he has never had in his career. So maybe they're going to take a slight step back defensively, because Dame is clearly no Drew Holiday on that end of the floor, but he's going to upgrade them offensively to a point where it will overcome that. And it just hasn't really happened. Like they ended up being a 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. New York catches them at the end of the year. This is the time now where he has the chance to shut everybody up, and this is what he has wanted. Like, he wants a chance to win a championship. He wants a chance to compete at the highest level. They're going to need him in the first round. If they lose to Indiana in the first round of the playoffs and he doesn't play very well, they're probably going to want to run him out of town and wonder, why did we bring this guy in when we won a title 2 years ago with Drew Holiday? And maybe we overreacted after losing a first-round series a year ago in which Giannis got hurt, and that was the primary reason we lost that series. That led Milwaukee to go down this path of making that trade. There's a lot of pressure on him starting this weekend, man, and he better come out and perform, because he's going to have to carry that team to the second round, likely by himself.
Well, but okay, so here's an interesting thing about them. He certainly has not had a great year. We've noted the statistics and how they're like, 2015, 2016. It's been a while since he shot like this.
Yeah.
He has struggled. I would also add to it, by the way, and it is a little defense of Lillard. The Giannis Dame thing hasn't quite been what I thought it would be. Now, maybe that's Dame being in Portland and being such a primary ball guy that working off ball or working with a Giannis, people treat it like he's Nurkic, and he's just not. He's a different player. But Middleton's been banged up in and out of the lineup, and I've seen a lot of him. He's not aging well. And Brook Lopez can hit threes from anywhere and, certainly has experience, but he's had some on and off moments as well. The team looks old and slow.
Yeah.
And Dame's certainly part of that, but around him too, it's like, oh, that guy's hurt. Oh, that guy's averaging 15 or 12 or not 20, not 22. And their bench isn't very deep. I think I said this a week ago. If you go to plus minus of 5-man rotations, I believe Milwaukee's either 1 or 2 in the league. They have no bench help. So when you don't have much bench help, your chemistry with Giannis isn't quite what we thought. Plus, one guy's always in and out and hurt. The other guy's been banged up a little bit, but not quite. He's old as well. Brook Lopez is. And then in this series against Indiana, I don't know how much Giannis we're going to see. So
yeah, he might not be back till the very back end of it.
We're right back where we were a year ago. Stephen A. saying out loud, Dame needs to demand a trade. He's like, if they lose, they're going to move him. He's not happy there. Golliver added, to be fair, that maybe you tweak things, but you keep Dame and Giannis. I don't know what's going to happen, but
if they lose this series because Giannis isn't back, I do think it would be a mistake to blow this all up.
Really?
I do.
Because Dame's it's not starting to age well for some people.
He's only 33 years old, so I'm curious to see where it goes.
He's 34 in July.
He's going to be 34, I know. Let's also, to the arguments that you're making, I will also give them the benefit of the doubt in terms of they made a terrible hire at head coach and had to pivot from that, 6 weeks into the season? 2 months into the season, whenever they made that move, and then you brought in a guy in Doc Rivers who we know his history in the playoffs. So there are extenuating circumstances that maybe have led them to not live up to the potential, but I also think that this is the beauty kind of the NBA playoffs, and if they can get past the first round and get Giannis back, is that all of this can be forgotten. Like a year ago, what was everybody saying at this point about Miami? Where do you go from here? You were only a play-in team. Jimmy Butler's getting older. But and I know it's the outlier.
Yeah.
And they ended up going to an NBA Finals.
But if you don't have Giannis around one, is Dame going to be able to do what Jimmy does? I don't know about that.
We'll find out. That's why I can't wait to watch this series to see.
What do you feel like?
I do feel like he has the ability to do that.
Really?
Because I've seen him do it.
I know we've seen him do it, but we haven't seen him do it in a little bit. It's been a couple, and some of this is not his own fault. He had the core surgery. Mm-hmm. And then they ask him to shut it down because they care about ping pong balls. And then they say they're going to build. Anyways, we haven't seen him do it in a little bit, and he's not had a great year statistically.
No, but some of the numbers, though, when you dive into them, aren't that off of what he's been kind of the last few years. He's taking fewer shots and getting fewer looks, and I think that's the direct reason why he went from, last year's kind of an outlier where he just went crazy and averaged 33 a game because that Blazer team was a joke. But most years of his, prime seasons, he's 27, 28, 25, 26. He's kind of in that range. So he's down to about 24 points per game, but his field goal percentage is slightly down from where it's been. But 2 years ago in Portland, he shot 40% from the floor. This year he's at 42. This year he's at 35.4% from three. That's slightly down again, but in 2018, 2019, when we all loved him, he was at 36.9%.
Yeah, but that small margin is a massive deal in the NBA.
I know.
It's like it's the equivalent to, quarterback processing time or receivers and how they break out of their routes. It's not that big of a gap, but that big gap does dictate and change the outcome and performance.
I'm curious to see what kind of mindset he has going into the first round, knowing that Giannis isn't out there.
They're the hottest pick to be upset in all of the playoffs, I think.
Because their star's not playing. They don't have their number one guy.
But they got the number two guy. And that number two guy is somebody we're familiar seeing kind of elevate things, especially in the earlier rounds of the playoffs.
Sure. I understand a lot of the criticism, and I understand where Golliver is coming from, and I do think he is under a ton of pressure. If you took Jokic off of Denver in their first-round series against L.A., would the Lakers be favored?
Yeah, I think so.
Probably,
yeah,
right? So I think there's a lot of stars that you could do, I don't know, Boston's not a good example because they're not going to lose to the 8 seed, but there's a few examples that you can point to of all right, if that guy's out of the lineup, Giannis is one of the top three players in the league.
Yeah, but LeBron and AD is different saying they're going to win versus Halliburton
the
and
in-season
Siakam?
champs, the in-season, runner-up.
No, they lost.
In-season runner-up.
But Halliburton and Siakam is not LeBron and
not.
AD, so
You're not wrong.
I don't even know if those are the same equivalents.
I'm just saying I understand why they're a trendy pick. I wouldn't go that far. I think they can hold serve as long as they need to until Giannis can come back in the back half of the series. And I am curious to see what Dame looks like, knowing that I'm the only option. I'm the number one guy. The offense runs officially through me. And do we have some of these big-time performances from him?
The tasty thing is Golliver mentioning to us on that interview, if they lose and they go a blow-it-up route, does Giannis eventually ask out? He's already flirted with it publicly.
Yes.
Not flirted like I'm going to ask out, but more like, I've always loved Chicago or whatever. Portland and the picks, the future picks.
They look really good.
They look tasty. They look delicious.
They look really good. Golliver noted in that interview that we did with him yesterday, too, that Portland probably moved off of Lillard at the correct time.
They should be touting it, he said.
You should be patting yourself on the back. And this is, it's just one of those where you
It'd be
wait
a weird
and see.
thing to tout for your franchise guy.
We did it right. He sucks now.
See, we told you. He's washed.
It's a tricky slope to walk, if you will. But I can't wait, dude. I know the West series are really exciting. Philly, New York has a little bit of that for me.
A little juice to that one.
But this one, just seeing how Dame plays in the playoffs, having a real chance now for the first time in his career at winning a championship, depending on the health of Giannis and when he comes back. Excited to see how that all plays out.
They tip off 4:00 Sunday on TNT.
There you go. I'll be watching.
We'll see what happens. Golliver saying Lillard's had the most disappointing season of anybody in the NBA. You can catch an interview with Ben Golliver at 1080 The Fan's YouTube page.